grafted, scattered, and all the other ones I normally say. Hello, Israel. Whether you're adopted, grafted, scattered, grafted, whatever the case is that you are chosen to categorize yourself as Israel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down over there. And I titled this, as you can see, I've been kind of busy today because I'm doing a lot of driving, but when I get these times like this, I want to come out with a video because as I drive, I can get a thought of some of the things that I'm preparing to put together for the congregation in messages and lessons, and I like to give the snippets to you all. So I titled this one, Passover, Forever a Type of Christ. So the Passover is a type of the Messiah. And let me tell you why I'm bringing this up. Passover season is coming up. And a lot of people think that the Passover, and those of you that are coming into the truth, you're dealing with this, where a lot of people who you are trying to explain what you're doing, the change that you make, the growth that you are experiencing, the knowledge that you're experiencing, you have to explain to people, why do you keep the feast days according to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter? In this segment, I only want to deal with Passover. So the first thing that you have to realize, and you can perhaps share this video with people that you're trying to explain things to. In Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, where the Passover was given, these are the feasts of the Lord. These are not feasts of the Jewish people, as you have been taught. These are the feasts of the Lord. They were given to the people of God as instructions to observe. You'll find the whole event in Exodus, the 12th chapter, but you'll find a culmination of all of the feast days in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. You'll also find in Exodus, the 12th chapter, verse 49, and also in Numbers, the 9th chapter, verse 14, that there were strangers, people who knew the God of Israel, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, was the true and living God. And so they joined Israel. And so what those scriptures that indicate that I gave you, Exodus 12 and 49, Numbers 9 and 14, that the Passover was also available for those that were sojourning or those strangers that were coming in to be with Israel. Now, Passover, forever a type of Christ. When you read Exodus, the 12th chapter, and when you're looking at the prerequisites of the lamb, you will find that that lamb matches the description of the Son of the Most High. They both were males, both without blemish. None of the bones could be broken, and you can only eat it with unleavened bread. The time that it had to be killed, the fact that you get the lamb on the 10th day of the month, of the first Hebrew month, the Messiah came in on the 10th of the 14th day, and they had identified him. So you look at all of that, and you'll find that it all matches the Messiah. I believe it's in Zechariah, the 9th chapter, and Genesis 49. You'll find that the prophecy was the Messiah will come riding in on an ass and her colt. And he did that. And he did that on the 10th day of the 14th, on the 10th day of the first month of Abib. He did that. And when he came in, he was being, at that point, that means he was identified. He was identified as the Lamb. From that point, the Jews sought how they might kill him. And so you'll find all of these things being a parallel to the Messiah. Now, in particular, what is one of the greatest parallels that you'll find is when you read Leviticus, the first 1 or 2, 3 chapters, you'll find that there was a prerequisite of how you offer a sacrifice. And you'll find that when it came from the cattle, especially being a lamb, you could only eat it with unleavened bread. So you had the burnt offering, which was the lamb. You had the meat offering, which was the unleavened bread. Now, they call it a meat offering, but that's just the term from translation. You can use a couple of different translations to see how that word meat came over. Or you can just simply read it in the King James Version, and when you can see how the context of the word is being used when it comes to a meat offering. So that's why I said read Leviticus, the first 2, 3 chapters, because you'll find the instructions given to the Levites. And they talk about taking a sacrifice from the cattle, which was to be used as a burnt offering. Then you had a meat offering. You get over into Numbers, the book of Exodus, where it starts to talk about a drink offering. Now, let me show you how all of that parallels with the Messiah. It parallels because the Messiah took the place of the Lamb. It also parallels because the night that he was to be betrayed, he said to the disciples, with desire, I have a desire to eat this Passover with you. So basically, he was sitting down with the 12, going into the recognition of the memorial of the Passover. Now, he did not become the Passover sacrifice until the next day, because if you read Exodus carefully and read the Gospels, you'll find that the Messiah was taken very early on the morning of the 14th. He went from judgment hall to judgment hall, but around noon he was placed on the tree. I prefer to use tree. There's another reason why. Get into that later. He was hung on the tree, and when he was hung on the tree, he died at 3 o'clock, or the 9th hour of the day. When you get, and the reason why that's important is to show that he not only matched the physical requirement, he also died the exact same time that the Passover lamb was killed. So the 9th hour of the day would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is why some translations say in Deuteronomy, you're supposed to kill the lamb between the 2 evenings. Now, at 12 o'clock, noon, after 12, you consider that to be the evening because the sun is starting to decline. At approximately 6 o'clock, you can conclude that the sun has reached its final phase of setting. And so in between 12 and 6 would be 3 o'clock. And that's why the lamb was to be killed between the 2 evenings. And so, and it was supposed to have been eaten on that day. And you're supposed to eat it with unleavened bread. And And to show you something else, what they did was when the Messiah sit down with the 12, there was the lamb being himself was present. There was the unleavened bread, which represented his body. That's a part of the burnt offering sacrifice. So when you go back to Leviticus, you have the lamb, you got the bread, which is the meat offering, and you got the drink offering. So what the Messiah did, he was there himself present, representing the lamb, and the entire sacrifice is being offered. So you got the meat offering, the drink offering, and the lamb. All of that represented the Messiah. All of it. And all of it was a part of the sacrifice. And so when you go back and read those initial books of Leviticus, you get a pretty good understanding of how a sacrifice for a sin and transgression offering worked. You needed to bring a burnt offering from the cattle, being the lamb, and you needed to have a meat offering, being the unleavened bread, and you needed to have a drink offering. And they use wine. So this is why the Messiah, when he got up from the table, him being there present, being the lamb, took the unleavened bread and gave it to his disciples, and he says, take, eat, this is my body. And then he says, take, drink, this is the blood of the New Testament. And so basically, he says, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine. So that the fruit of the vine was the same as the drink offering in the Torah. So all of this so beautifully mixes itself together to give us understanding how our Passover is forever a type of the Messiah. Forever a type of the Messiah. So when you show that, when you're explaining that, maybe perhaps sharing this video will give full explanation so that you can share with other people. Again, read Exodus the 12th chapter, read Leviticus the first several chapters. When you read Exodus, concentrate on verse 49 because it lets you know not only Israel but the stranger that joins himself with Israel. Read Numbers 9 and 14 and read the Gospels. Read the Gospels. And also you have to put in there 1 Corinthians 5 and 7 where the Apostle Paul in teaching confirmed that the Messiah was our Passover. So, you know, all of these things pointed toward the Messiah. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, every one of those feast days pointed toward the Messiah and the establishment of his kingdom here on earth. And so I'll show that each time when the appropriate feast days comes. I'm going to show that to you so that you can get full understanding of that. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I covered everything in this video. Just a short presentation on Passover, forever a type of the Messiah. Be blessed.